Let's get this party started. All
Okay.
right. Well, well, welcome to Untethered Soul. We are going to be discussing chapters 8 and 9, and this is the introduction to part 3, freeing yourself. Good morning, Chandra. Good morning. She's connecting to audio. Um, yeah, these chapters on freeing yourself and then the removing the inner thorn. First things first that I would love to know is did everybody receive an email from me on Thursday? That
Yeah,
was
I did. Yeah.
officially
Right.
cool.
Right.
Everybody did. Okay.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting is I thought I had sent that email before I came to San Diego, and it was the very first email I sent from the new platform. And when I went to do what I typically do is like copy and paste, and change the title, like see you in a couple hours, like and resend the same email. I couldn't see the email. So um I was just hoping that y'all could find it. And I was like, they're grown-ups. They can find it just fine. But like here trying to figure that out. It's a new system. So thank you for having some grace on that. And I also just want to start out by celebrating. I did it. I switched platforms. It's official. I took the leap, and so hopefully emails will continue to flow with ease and grace. But glad to hear that you guys got it. Okay. I can't remember the the journal prompts that I put up. Oh wait, mom had this. Oh yes. Starting with chapter 7, I really wanted to let's start by talking about fear. And Peggy, you've already said you're like chapters 8 and 9, like I don't get it. Like so
Well, they're talking about thorns and stuff, and I'm talking about what kind of stuff. Are they talking about physical stuff, mental stuff, other people's stuff? I don't know. And I read
yeah.
the whole thing again this morning, and I said,
Well,
I don't know what fear they're talking about, what stuff they're talking about, how they're trying, how I should be relating this to my life. And yeah,
gotcha.
I'm
Well,
hoping you guys can help with that.
let's dig into that. I have so many notes in the book on this. The prompt that I sent just to give us a jumping off point. And again, this is a conversation. So at any point, like if something really drew you and like I want to talk about this doesn't make sense, or I have an example, we'll just go. Also, one last question. There is some construction around here. Is that loud for anybody? Can anybody hear it? Okay, it's just me. Okay. So part 3 on freeing yourself is that people don't understand that fear is a thing. It's just another object in the universe that you're capable of experiencing. You can do one or two things with fear. You can recognize that you have it and work to release it, or you could keep it and try and hide from it. And I think that, like, to extrapolate into chapter 9, the thorn that can't fear can be a thorn, where you try to you keep it and try to hide from it. So the teaching says that we all have fears inside that we keep actively avoiding. By paying attention to a current fear that's causing you trouble, or recall a habitual long-time fear that continues to cause you disturbance. So, and then the reflection prompt said, write about what you typically do to avoid feeling those fears. What techniques have you used to avoid fear? How well do they really work? Does the fear go away for good or just temporarily? And then write about a time, what it's like to work through a fear instead of avoiding it. What techniques have you used to work through the fear and release it? And how well do they work? So that's where I'd like to start, because fear is really like fear comes alongside change. Anytime you're up leveling, you're going to step into a new way of doing something or not doing something anymore. When you are saying, I am actively going to change this part of how I have behaved, like fear is right alongside you.
I don't know if that's fear apprehension. I have a lot of apprehension before I start something new, but am I fearful? Yeah. I don't know if that's fear is just such a strong word. I don't know what I fear.
Okay. Apprehension.
I mean, I even had my hairdresser say, "Are you afraid of anything, Peggy?" And I said, "I don't think so. I mean, I'll walk my dog at midnight if I need to, I don't care. I don't have a fear for where I'm at
So,
or what I'm doing. So I don't know where they're trying to relate for fear. Fear of doing something new. I would
okay,
say that's to me,
what do
that's
y'all
apprehension.
Good morning, everybody. Has everybody had their coffee? It's only 9 o'clock here this morning. I'm the sleepy one. Here we go, Suze.
Are we awake?
Everyone's like, come on, we're just jumping right in. Let's talk about
Okay, let's do
and
this.
fear and doing scary things and like what is like physical fear. Walking at night at midnight, that might be a physical fear, and you don't have a physical fear of your surrounding, but like fear of um
Meeting people, new people, or fear of starting something new at work, or fear of, you know,
I have a couple insights on it.
oh, good.
The fears that are a little bit more relevant for me are like fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of gossip, fear. So, when you're in leadership positions, you have to deal with that. And probably 20 years ago, I just started saying to myself, if I have that fear as a gut level, like, ugh, a gut punch. And I just did a habit of saying, is that very loving? Because fear is very closed, love is very open. So I had a list of this is what fear looks like, this is what love looks like, this is what fear feels like, this is what love feels like. And so those, I just created my own little guide system.
you talked about that in Teo, right? Like the two lists. That's a
And so I'm very practical. And so I will, take my list and so it's a habit now. So habits start very small with, oh, I felt this. I don't want to feel it anymore. And so when they discuss about fear, hiding from it, avoiding it, recalling it, we all do that and have done that in our life, but you can make a choice to feel it, let it go through you. And like I think it was last year, I had someone actually send a really negative text out to a lot of women about me to not
about
support
me.
me for whatever reason she thought. And my name was on it and everything. And I thought, I hadn't felt that feeling in a while. And then I thought, okay, the loving thing to do is forgiveness because that's a gift I give to myself. I did do some bad things like yell or some, I did something passive aggressive, I'm sure. But to make myself feel better for a minute, but then you don't feel better when you don't do the loving thing. So, revenge kind of stuff, which is in the fear department. So, finding out through feeling it instead of labeling it, that's that witness. It's like you're watching a movie, you're outside yourself and you're like, oh, that girl tried to hurt that girl and that girl felt that way. I just kind of pull back and with that, when you're doing the love part of it, the clarity comes and you're like, oh, that girl's unhealed. She's jealous and then you can have compassion. And that's a loving thing to do. So that's what I'm talking about. When you have fear, first of all, being able to identify it. Second of all, looking at yourself and how you're reacting to it, that self-awareness, which is painful sometimes because I'm Irish, so I get to have a temper. I get to use that
I
all the
get
time.
to. I love
And so um, I'm like, wow, Lisa, aren't you the mature one in the crowd here? I mean, all that. So then I tend to make it funny later. I definitely, that's my, I work through things through humor. So I'm like,
Okay.
so the fear thing, yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to identify it, especially if I'm 24 years old. I'll fly to New York City and walk the streets. I'm good as long as I have good walking shoes. Yeah, maybe I'm supposed to get mugged or whatever people say it's supposed to happen. But I was that girl and am that girl. So
Yeah.
it's hard to know, but then when it comes to the emotional stuff, when someone has actually gossiped about you or someone has left you, I mean, that's where I experienced fear. All the physical outside things with work wasn't as prevalent, but it was definitely those things of judgment and that's like, oh, I'm afraid for people to leave me. And now I'm blessed if people leave me because that's that's a good thing because they're not in the same vibration as you. So I think it is just if you can in your mind be honest with yourself and it can be very private. And then that's the beginning of it, identifying it, and then maybe working through it.
There, like that was stirring up memories of last week's conversation. We talked a lot about control and fear, and he just put them together, it felt like. like as a way to either regulate your nervous system or try to feel more in charge, like that control is controlling the situation is kind of like that going into that thorn where he talks about you're building the whole apparatus to protect the thing, even if it's fear about something, like to use your point, Lisa, of like that vulnerability or of like being exposed in that way in such a what seems like a very hurtful, very direct way. Like, how do we move through that? And I mean, a lot of us would want to just self-protect, like put ourselves in a big giant bubble and not deal with that. And then control, like, I'm not going to, so that this doesn't happen again, here are all the things I'm going to put into place so that I don't land myself back in that situation. So there's like the control and the fear is what I was seeing, like defensiveness.
Yeah, and so in this particular case, I do see this girl in certain events. She
Hmm.
probably knows that I know, and I'm very loving to her. And,
So what
you
was your
know,
reaction for the disturbance? There was a disturbance. I don't understand the whole disturbance thing either.
that gut reaction, like your homeostasis of your body is like, "Whoa," like
Yeah.
a disturbance is like, wow, I have a temper. I want to punch that girl in the face. That's a bit of a disturbance.
A little bit of disturbance.
That's
I like
That's that doesn't happen. It happens in my mind, but I'm like that girl, and so,
And the
and
disturbance, though, is much deeper than that. It's like, yes, I want to
yeah,
punch her in the face. That's the awareness that I'm disturbed.
yeah,
So there's the
that's
awareness that I'm disturbed.
that
Like,
gut.
yes, but like what part of you was really hurt? And I think it's hurt by her words. Was it like the fact that it was public? Was it the fact that she didn't talk to you? Was it the fact that like what she said, like either exposed a side to you that you didn't want, that you're not proud of, or was it an untruth? Like there's so like what's that, because that disturbance is the question. Like
Yeah,
what part of me is disturbed by this? I wrote that down somewhere. What part of me is disturbed by this? I mean, that's the question. It's like the samskara
right.
again.
Is
Like
it
what part of me
true?
is disturbed by this?
Yeah, it's public. People with gossip, sometimes they'll believe it. I mean, and then you're like, well, no one took the time to ask the question and get to the truth. They saw one side of it and then they made a decision. And then now a person has said, this is how and so, yeah, it's public. People don't, when people see one side of something and they're like, I'm going to call Lisa and ask her. And then someone finally did and sent that to me. And I'm like, this is the other side. They're saying legitimately, I was competing against boutiques, and there's like, she's not a boutique. And I'm like, I have a home office. I am considered a boutique. And yes, I did win the award statewide. So there it goes. But it was nasty, and very personal. And so I was just like, wow, what makes a person do that? To say she's, not legitimate. So maybe that's what it is the fact that if someone would not get the other side of the story, which a lot of people choose not to do, or, the disturbance is like, it's not true. It's a lie. It's like, it was just not
An
true.
integrity thing, kind of in a way. Like
Yeah, and integrity
I
is huge to me. That's a core value. So I guess that's what we're talking about is disturbance when someone portrays you with your core value. Integrity is one of those things for me, and
okay.
as a healthcare professional and as a human. And so, yeah, it's like what you're saying, I'm cheating. Is that what is going on here? And it disturbed me for a while, and then I got to see about what disturbance feels like, and it hits pretty deep. So, yeah, you're right that you got to get past the
Yeah.
superficial and get into like, oh, did that happen to you when you were a young kid and you're reliving it, or
Right.
do you have imposter syndrome? You really don't think you're legit. Maybe that's part of, you
Yeah.
start questioning all that.
And truthfully, like whatever the person who sent that text or email, like that's on her to figure out her shit
Right.
and why she sent that. For you, it's to regulate, like, why was I bothered by this? Like, and he talks about you just fall behind, you witness, you release, you let go, you open up your heart. And that, like, I just want to get into that too, because there's that conversation of like, okay, like, it
Sorry.
just makes it like you just do it. I mean, and like that's not as easy, but sitting with your own emotion, like it's, I think what you have to witness and peel back is understanding what part of me, what root of the thorn, like that thorn is hitting something. What is it? And so for you, like perhaps identifying that it's your integrity being attacked, and then how that, like, an integrity is a core value of yours, and that's that thorn. But then what? Like then you just, once you recognize it, just like breathe through it and be like, she wasn't integrous, and I can forgive and wish her well, or whatever part of her needed to say that, because she's probably in fear of you, very powerful double royal person, right? She's probably in fear of you, why she didn't come to you directly and say something to you. There's all kinds of things. But again, like it's like, how do we sit with it? And what do we do with our dysregulation or our disturbance and let it go? Like just let it go.
I think there's some steps before letting it go because a lot of people love to say, let it go. And you can even sing the song, but
Yeah.
it's not like just let it go. I feel like it's process it and then it will let itself go. But I don't know that you can just let it go. I want that. I wish I could not have to go through all the steps before
Hmm.
that, but I love letting things go with love.
Hmm. A
Um,
visualization perhaps of like seeing it like be released, but it's a process. I think it is a process,
process.
and I do think that he simplifies it to drive home to drive home the point that you get to choose every day and every moment
Right.
what you're going to give your attention to, and just choose, instead of looking at the thorn and the protection device around the thorn, just look that way. And I'm hearing more and more of that. Like it really is as simple as, and the fact that idea, this is something that I am questioning. I'm not stating anything here, but like that we don't need to process everything. Like I'm such a processor. So I don't know, like I have not done this, but I think that that's the idea that I've been introduced to lately, is that you actually don't need to process that. Like you can identify it and be like, this is what was disturbed, and move forward and just be like, okay, yeah, little Lisa was hurt, or maybe it's big Lisa, like big integrous Lisa was hurt. I don't know. I don't know. But like the fact that like it can be, I've been hearing people say it is as simple as just not feeding it. But
Right.
where does the like how does it stay?
I think the first time you do it, you don't know how to do it. And so maybe that's where the processing comes in. And then if it happens to me now, I've already done all that processing and you go right to letting it go because you're like, oh, that's an unhealed, hurt person. It has nothing to do with me. So the first time it happened, because it was shocking to me. And then I did all the processing. And then now it is quite easy because you become,
Okay.
you're around a lot of people. So when you have more people around, things like that are actually naturally going to happen, I think. So yeah, the first time when you're shocked, like people do that, because I can be really naive about it, then you're like, oh, okay. So if that happens again, I don't have to, you're right. I don't have to do a full process on it. That's a good point.
Okay. Other thoughts on this, like either around fear, control, thorns, personal experiences, like noticing disturbances. Yes, Miss.
I will say that when I saw the thorn thing, I felt like I just needed to love my thorn and coexist with my thorn, and so it took away its power.
Mm,
Because a thorn for me is if I take a moment to be honest and vulnerable with someone, and that gets put back on to me in a negative way, they're using something that I shared against me, and then I'm ready to knock them out. And I don't want to be that person anymore. So
mm.
I can visualize choking them and letting them pass out and walk away, sure. But I'd much rather just try to look at this is my thorn and you're touching it, but that's not your fault. You're touching my thorn because I haven't done the work to get rid of it. So you
Mm.
have your own thorns and you go, choke on your rose if you need to, but I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be so full of um it's not vengeance, it's just
That
when I
reactivity.
yeah, it's like I'm telling you something super deep about myself and you're using that against me. And then, so it builds the mistrust of everybody. And then you do become, you hide behind food, you
Yeah.
hide behind alcohol, you hide behind everything else because, well, you didn't accept me when I was 100% honest with you
Mm.
and bearing my soul. So you really don't want to know me. No one wants, and you just kind of, that tape just starts to roll. So I want to be friends with my thorn so it doesn't hurt other people because it's going to get touched. It's not going to not
Yeah,
get touched.
right. And you
It's
think
deep.
about, yeah, being friends with it is like literally seeing yourself, putting healing balm on it and loving it and like soothing it, like so that like it can be a little bit more healed when somebody does, yeah, touch it rather than putting that defensive barrier around it. Because I don't think that anybody intentionally does that. I don't think that we are like, I am going to, I don't know, maybe we do.
You might not, Andrea, but there are people out there that look for
Narcissist.
people like that who can just poke at it because it makes them feel better to make you less than. So yeah, there are a lot of people like that.
Narcissists, you're saying, Chandra?
Yeah, narcissists love that because what they want is like a dopamine hit. And those
Your
people get a
reaction.
dopamine hit out of your pain, which really effing sucks. So I think like listening to everyone's stories, I feel like we all have thorns. There's no way you could get through life without a thorn. I mean, look at COVID, right? We all have a little PTSD over that. But what I try to do is try to realize my thorn's not going to go away. It's part of my body now. And I'm going to take my cross and like Jesus, take your cross and walk with it. Everyone's got to like
Mm.
walk with their thorns and yeah, let it go, but also let it teach me. Let it teach me like, okay, that person that, said mean things to Lisa, it's like, thank you for showing me how you are. And bye-bye, you're not my person. You know what I mean? And it happens all the time. And you wake up in the morning and a lot of things are going to hit your thorns, your trauma, whatever it is. And it's like, how am I going to, like you said, show up? And there's this new theory from Mel Robbins. I don't know if you've heard of it called the let
Mhm.
them theory. I
Love
The
love
it.
what
that.
theory?
The let them
Let
theory
them. Love
based
Um,
it.
Let them.
let them, because you have
Mhm.
no control again. I know, right? Over people's thoughts, actions, or response that you only have control of yours. I have no control over what you guys are thinking of me right now, right? So I can only control my own thoughts and I can let you think whatever you want. It's actually none of my business. And go on. Let you be you and let me be me. Let them. And so, it's the way that we try to interpret it. It's very hard when you're sitting in it and it viscerally hurts you to your core. It makes you want to cry and shake. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to cry in front of this person because they're trying to get a reaction out of me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk away, cry, have my little battle with myself and let them be and let them thank you for showing me who you are. I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. I'm going to hang out with people who just love me. And I have a choice. I mean, we're allowed to like hang out with people who love us, right? And if people love you if they don't. You just know it. We all have our days, but you know it. So, anyways, that's my little 2 cents there.
Yeah, no,
No,
that's
it was very good, Chandra.
Thank
I
you.
love that, Chandra.
yeah, that let them like that, like yeah, like and it reminded me, I just had a brief exchange with my ex-husband, just asking like, yeah, I was asking for some financial compensation for something, and this whole let them, I think I have done so much work through it. When he responded, I think I was really hoping that this, something has lifted and something has changed and there was going to be like generosity in his heart. I was quickly reminded, Mom, did you put those double birds, Mom? Yeah.
We're just flying.
Yeah. Yeah. But I didn't get pulled in energetically this time. And so that was just a sign to me of like, this is like the disturbance wasn't there. I was like, it was more like oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah, this is
remember
what you're
this. Yeah.
dealing with. And he hasn't changed. And I was a little compassionate towards that. in some ways. I was like, okay, this is how you need to be. And I just responded like, fine. Like let them. I like that. Let them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You go ahead and you do you and I'm gonna do me. And I've already, yeah, I'm
I'm
elsewhere.
good with that. Yeah.
It was a good test. It was a good test.
It was just to see, and I'm wondering, like I almost like I did have this moment where, because I felt it, right? And that's what part of this work is like when you notice immediately, you're like, "Ooh, something changed, something shifted in me." Like if it's just a squeezing of the heart, or
Mhm.
maybe Lisa, you were saying you felt it in your gut. I think that that's part of it is like really being able to pay attention to when do we notice that we're experiencing a seeking feeling and where do we notice it like in our bodies because the bodies are signaling to us and I noticed it happened real fast and I was like it's like not today Satan that was exactly that type of moment I was like no I am
Well,
not
it's really vulnerable to ask for help or ask for anything. It's I very much do that's a thorn of mine. I do not like to ask for help. I don't.
yeah
That's a thorn because
yeah
we should all be able to receive and ask for help. Be safe enough in our environment to ask for help when we need it or whatever it is. And so I the vulnerability that could be part of a thorn too, because it's like
hmm
I'm going to ask anyway.
yeah yeah. Who else has experienced either something about recently where they've had an experience of loving the thorn or getting their thorn hit? And it's also if your thorn gets hit, and you have a strong reaction and you lose your shit, like, I mean, I've been peeling back the layers on my technology thorn. Like it's real. Like I do not like not knowing something, knowing how to do something. And that's ultimately what has been hitting up against me. Like yeah, like
That's
but
our ego too. That's
mhm.
our ego when you think that you need to be able to do everything, and that's not true. That's why you have a tribe around you and a team around you and people around you to help step that in. I will tell you that my AI assistant here's all my bitches now because if I'm in it, I have to get it. I don't want to forget about it and just keep eating over it or pushing it under. So I turn this on and I just quickly spat off what's happening. So that way he'll get it, but I don't have to give it to anybody else out there.
So
Maybe later I'll listen to it and write about it and think about it and burn it and all that stuff. But in that moment, I'm not going to call you or Sue 24 hours a day and just say, this person just, although you guys get to witness everybody cutting me off for the most part. But this thing actually is very therapeutic because you're not hurting a single soul by going off on this person the way that helps you get it out
so
or
using AI
this
to
thing. Yeah.
like
Mhm.
you're able and that's I mean like you're an Aquarius rising. I love your use and like of like this very future vision AI like I want to call it a relationship, but you do like you have created in your
Oh, it's a relationship. All right.
but you are creating like it's really cool that you can turn to that too and see like how to use in a beautiful way, in a really
Mhm.
supportive and loving way technology. Like that's wild. Like I can't even like that would not be on my radar of like what of steps of processing. And I love that you're just sharing that as like that's another tool. Like
Mhm.
AI can be a really beautiful tool.
Oh, it is. And let me say thank you, Mayor. I use that AI site that Mayor hooked me up with
Oh,
to deal with my narcissist in my life. And it's very smart, tangible techniques to deal with it. And I'm very appreciative of it. Yeah. And then with this chapter too, identifying my thorn, you guys are helping me identify it. And it's just a long-standing family thorn I have. And
deep.
and to identify the emotion of it is I think where I wasn't going. I was just being indignant and pissed and
Mm,
ego, and it's not
mhm,
fair. That
mm.
doesn't do any good. Uh,
I mean, that's part of
It's
that
just,
self-protection, right? Like that is a self-protective apparatus. That's part of like, I
yeah,
love that visual of the apparatus. And you're not even aware that that's what you're doing, but you are all those things.
right. Exactly. And then Chandra is just stating that I can acknowledge that that person, that is who he is. And you acknowledging your ex, that's who he is.
Yep.
Move on.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah. So the thorn doesn't stab you. It's a hurtful thing, but it doesn't have to affect your life. We can move
Right.
on. So
Can we get rid of our thorn at all? Because if you have
No.
a lot of thorns, it's so funny. So I'm visual. I'm like feeling like you're
Covered.
so big with your cage around you, you can't like sit on an airplane or you
Yeah.
can't sit in your car because you have this big apparatus around
Apparatus.
you.
Yeah.
So I'm just visual. I'm like, can you make your thorn smaller? Can you heal it? Can you actually get rid of it? Or you just have to always have it? And I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get to that in other chapters.
That's a good
right.
question. What are thoughts right now? Can we fully heal? Like, and I think that that's what I see. Like, I love the visual because you can also
Mhm.
picture like an infected thorn and like how painful and how sensitive that is versus like what Mara was saying, like just loving a thorn that we have, and we have multiple thorns, I would say. I know I certainly do, but like
Some of your thorns make you who you are today. It's okay to honor a thorn and maybe like flick it away, but the other ones that are super deep.
Well, they all leave scars, whether you're able to flick them or not. You pull out your thorn and flick it away, you're going to have a scar, and so it's not totally gone. It's right where your scars are. I'm touching an actual physical scar. It's right where your scars are.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, but that's where the light enters. Isn't it what Rumi says? That
that's
the
right.
Mhm.
stars where the light enters. And I think you can use your thorns as valuable teachers. Like when you see that narcissist walking towards you and it reminds you of your ex or your family member, I'm just going to stay away from that person because that person's not going to be good for me.
Right.
And then you see a person who reminds you of like your husband, your loving husband, not the one that's
Yeah.
or a friend. I'm going to go towards that energy. So I think you can use it, but I agree. I don't think they go away. I mean, I think there are teachers.
Yeah.
And they could be less sensitive, less irritated. Like it's been treated
Right.
and it's still there. Yes, it is a teacher. He makes he talks about it being an energetic blockage. Who wants to speak on that? I see a lot of nodding of heads like, oh yes.
Could I share a little bit, Andrea?
I would love for you to share about emotional blockage.
I know nobody knows me. It's so, first of all, just let me say thank you so much for letting me even participate in this.
Of course.
I started reading this book this week, and there are a couple things in it that like, I don't totally agree with how he says it, but that's okay. But what everybody's talking about, like the thorn. So I've learned of a way that, well, let me back up. Even the thorns are energy. It's all energy.
Mhm.
And so there are ways to literally change the frequency of those negative things. And it can really happen to where you don't lose the experience or lose what you've learned from it, but it's not negative for you anymore. So it doesn't trigger you or it doesn't hurt so much when something happens that relates to it. It's all energy. So there are ways to actually change that, and it's really beautiful and easy.
What are they?
What would be what's a way that like I mean I think this is the practical portions. Like how do we like what is a way that we can release the blocked energy and allow the flow to move through us?
Well, I think that there are a million modalities out there. Everything that everybody's doing, everything, I don't know all of you. I don't know what your gifts are, what you're offering the world. Um, and I think that every little bit of it helps. Every little bit of it works on that. What I've learned over the last couple years, and I've been studying over the last couple of years, is emotion code and body code and belief code, which are modalities that identify what is trapped, and you literally can release it with the power of intention and magnetism, because the magnet kind of broadens the intention, makes it stronger. Your intention is positive, so it kind of counteracts the negativity, and it literally changes the frequency of that negative stuff. So it's so fascinating, and I've seen such amazing things. In fact, I'll share a little story with you that happened a couple weeks ago when we had really, really high winds. I was picking up my grandkids from school, and my granddaughter opened the car door, and the wind gust just banged that door into the car next to me. And I looked over, and this guy, oh man, he was so pissed. And I just went, oh boy, here we go. So he jumped out of his car. I got out of my car, and
Yeah.
everybody's frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry. He got out of his car, I got out of mine, and he just went on a rampage. And I was instantly scared. So when you were talking about fear, that was like instant
Like physical.
scared. However, he kind of kept going, and I said, it was an accident. And he just went, how am I going to get to work? It was literally this little ding in his car. I mean, he just went crazy. But I was able, I don't even know how, but I was able to just, like he talks about in the book, kind of step away from it in a way and look at it. And I just took a deep breath, and I looked at him. I'll never forget his red face and all that anger. And I just said, oh, are you having a bad day? And instantly the energy, and he kind of got a little bit, he was still very red, but you could see his change in his eyes of just kind of, they softened a little bit. And he goes, yeah, like life can be really, really hard. And then compassion, I was like, I'm really, really sorry. I will take care of this. We just kind of smooth things out. $600 later, the guy still wasn't happy, but whatever. His car's fixed.
Wow.
Way to be able to, but it was cool. It was really, really cool. And before, I would have been super defensive or terrified and, offered everything or whatever, but it was really cool. So
That's
that
a
was
that's a great example of also being that witness in the
yeah.
moment.
I was gonna say in the moment,
Like
yeah.
in the moment is really powerful because I could see how fear, like physically, like a man's coming at you with words, and then you're also protective of your grandkids and
Absolutely.
all of that, like how, like it's really impressive that you were able in that. And I love what you said that like I took a deep breath, just connecting to the Shakti that he talks about, right? Our
Right.
chi energy and just being like, I'm going to witness Kelly
Bet
have
your kids are very
like
proud of you for handling it so
Yeah.
calmly.
And it wasn't even your
I heard
fault.
what
It
they were
was
saying in the
it was
car.
an act of nature. That's what I would say to my insurance company.
So what a
Right?
beautiful
No.
lesson for your grandkids to
Thanks.
witness,
Mhm.
able to
Yeah,
watch.
I
That's
think so.
amazing.
right, because
You
you
Yeah.
could
don't
have
have
scared
to fight back.
right,
Thanks,
you
man.
could have scared your grandkids and created something in them unintentionally, like
Right.
that's based on fear, that they wouldn't know that they have this, potential thing. Could have created a samskara, like something for them. And instead,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
really, that's a great way to see like yourself witnessing it and allowing it, like you really took a deep breath and you related human to human, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that disarmed him.
It
And
really did. It was pretty amazing because I've never really experienced something like that so obviously. Like it was a great lesson for me. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I like it because I forget, our thorns can help others, how we manage our thorns. So I love that. And I do know you, Kelly.
I know you, Lisa.
And so I love that because Yeah, we have kids and grandkids, and how are we handling our thorns? And now I look at my kids, I'm like, do they have a temper? No, they're actually pretty mellow dudes, you know? And I was like, okay, maybe I was handling my thorns, and I have a good co-parenting relationship with their dad. And so I was like, okay, then how we manage our thorns, it's the beautiful story of can affect generations. I love hearing that,
Oh,
thinking
can
about
I
that.
mention something about that too? Interestingly, I'm sorry, I totally cut you off, but it it's possible the things that I've been learning, like how you see patterns in your families, generational stuff that we carry through. It's actually because the things we can inherit trapped emotions, we can inherit negative belief programs, and that can also be released, or it's called released, but I just say it's kind of changes it. You can actually turn those things more positive, or at least take the negativity out of it. You can change it, and it changes it for all generations because it's energy. So sometimes we have these thorns, we don't even know what they are because we've inherited them. And yeah, but they can be changed.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that.
Thank you. That's a great point. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. What else has come up in this book? Just looking over these last two chapters. I mean, mine is so I wrote, ponder this. The relationship will have problems because your problems are what caused the relationship. Ooh. Oh, is that chapter 10? That's chapter 10. That's next chapter. What are some other things that have come up for you or that you're still questioning or just want to verbally process? Did somebody's thorn get bumped in the last week that maybe did not have the gold star reaction or response rather, instead had like a really tough reaction?
I didn't want to put Christmas away. Is that all? Is that a thorn? I wanted to keep it. Just kidding. Just kidding. Nothing. You're good. Woo.
Well, I like how he talks about control. I'm in a situation right now and I have no control over, well, we're always in situations where we have no control, but I have a big, control thing right now. And I'm like, come on, I've done all the energetic work on this.
Mm.
It's
And that
in,
surrender. Yeah.
it's not in yeah, surrender was my word last year. This
Yeah.
year it's a different word. And so, but I that control thing keeps coming up in this book. So how are we?
Because that's what we're doing when we're controlling, right? We're trying to protect something. We're not as sure even probably what we're trying to protect.
So maybe this week, what was out of your control and how did you react to it when your thorn got touched? If you even know you have where that thorn is, but yeah, it keeps coming up, this control thing.
What's he say about
Well, I wrote a big no that said, don't get the other person involved because it's my problem. It's not a
that?
fixable problem. It's that's who he is problem. So there's no sense in going there. Yeah, I can deal with that and let the emotion feel the emotion. You guys helped me identify. I didn't even know it was an emotion. I was just like, oh, it's so unfair. It's so he takes advantage of me. And I can pout about that all day long, but it's not going to change him,
Right.
right? I have to own that and realize that's just who he is. It doesn't have anything to do with me, right? It
Right.
Because
really
you're
Full
doesn't.
choosing to take
agreements.
it personally.
Always
Yeah,
You
like
don't
those
have to
full
choose to
agreements.
take it personally. That's
right.
all part of that. I still relay that 4 amendments we read last year, 4 agreements, because you don't have to take it personally. You take it personally is when you really react and you have that disturbance and it's attacked your thorn and all that sort of stuff. I had that with one of my sisters. I just don't react with her very often. And she says, I just don't take it so personally anymore. I don't have to.
Mhm. Mhm.
So maybe I go around in the bubble.
Right.
My,
Yes.
my,
Climb
my
inside
goals
that
protect me in
disco
my bubble.
ball.
Yes.
Go in your disco ball.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my little disco ball, exactly. And not take it personally. And yeah.
Yeah, so he says right at the beginning of chapter 8, like, so the natural ups and downs of life can either generate personal growth or create personal fears. So which of these dominates is completely dependent on how we view change. So you utilize the mind in an attempt to manipulate life for the purpose of not feeling fear. Like control is like, I love that connection between fear and control. Like the more that you do assert control or trying to control it, it's because you are trying to balance the external situation to regulate the internal. And really, it's that internal regulation that is necessary. It's like just identifying it back. And that's where, like, the emotion code, like even Kimberly, what you were talking about is like, I didn't have the language. The emotion code just, it has so many, right? That's my understanding. It's just like it goes between a whole bunch of words on different types of emotions. Sometimes it's just identifying, like we're not even aware that we've been building an armor or a protective suit or yeah. Like
Right.
and then all of a sudden you have this apparatus where like you can't get on an airplane, right? Because it's like too scary or too cumbersome.
Can I share again?
Yes,
I don't want
please.
to talk too much.
Or your
Oh,
thorn might get
please.
hit
I was
again.
going to say, it's pushing against your thorn if you get on that airplane, whatever.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's all those un, unforeseen occurrences that are going to occur. They are, so you
Yeah.
hibernate that. You hibernate with your thorn.
Yeah, I like the change in energy that you talked about because when I walk in a group of women, these big groups of women are tricky. And
Very.
because I'm a boy mom and I've been around men my whole life, so this is new for me. And I'm like, I changed the energy in that I'm walking in the room, I'm not walking in the room like this. I'm walking in the room. And so I'm like, well, maybe I can be intimidating. I mean, I'll take a look at myself and maybe there is a reaction to what I present. And so that's why people would do things. And, I'm just trying to understand it as best that I can. But, you know, I am facing it. So facing the fear if someone talks about me and facing them and the fear, they're probably just as scared, even more, that I'm facing it, that I am right there. And so I took a look at that and I have to kind of check myself because I can be intimidating, I guess, So I was just changing the energy a little bit. I'm kind of playing with, okay, what's that person, this person? We have to be in the room together. So how are when one of the energies changes, it automatically changes the other
It's
energy.
kind of like they're also protecting their thorn. I went
Exactly.
to I was invited to a meeting this last week. It's a community meeting, supposed to be a anti-Trump type thing, but it wasn't. It was actually just a very nice community meeting. They invited um, local, assemblymen and things like that. But I was talking to one gentleman, having a great time talking. Turned out he was a teacher at a college that my granddaughter went to. So all of a sudden, his wife shows up, and she's just pushing away right in between the two of us. And she obviously maybe was threatened by me, or I was poking her thorn or whatever. Maybe someone told her I was single and there her husband was standing there. I don't know, but I kind of just ignored it and said very friendly, very nice and very friendly things to her. And she walked away, I guess. But it was one of those things you just feel like I think
You could feel her.
I could feel her, like I was doing something to, invading her space or where she blocked off her thorn. It was pretty funny, yeah. But yeah, I didn't want to, what's the word? Exasperate or create on that. So I didn't want to have her go away with a negative feeling. So I was just very positive and started talking to her and that sort of thing. And everything was fine. But yeah, you have to kind of realize she may be taking me personally, that very,
You might have been like just having a
right,
women
right.
and you have no idea what
But
their
where her
relationship is,
perception
their
is,
dynamic is,
yeah,
but like your presence
right. And I
probably
only
touched
came
up
to,
against some thorn on hers, but
yeah.
that's hers. You could witness it.
Mm-hmm. And
not
I came,
pulled
was
into it.
invited to it and thought, this is a fun place to meet people. Yeah, I'm still fairly new in the area. I've only been out here 3 years. So and it was very enjoyable. But yeah, I could just see that she just worked her way right between us. But anyway, it's kind of a, seeing other people being threatened by their thorns being pressurized.
But I feel like you made a difference in that you could have acted one way and you chose to act a different way. And to me, I love that energy exchange of, oh, that ended up going well because I made a choice and I have awareness, where people walk around in the world with no awareness. I've seen it where they have no self-awareness. They do not know they look like that or act like that. And I love the feeling that our energy can dissipate around us and change the energy, maybe even of the whole room, which to me,
can control it. Yeah.
Maybe change the energy in the world. I don't know, but
yes.
So
Kelly, what did you want to share?
Well, it went back to the control thing. But now I'm thinking about other things with this whole energy. But I was going to say about the energy, didn't he say something earlier in the book about when you start being that centered, self-aware person, that you're filled with good energy and it literally just oozes out of you, and it does change things around you. So Peggy, like when you responded with just positivity, like that just changed things. And Lisa, you walk in a room, girl, you know your energy is big. And all of these people and women, well, we all know the story of women, and we have a lot of deep thorns. So when you walk in with your positivity, that's it's not what they know, it's not what they understand. So it just,
and you shine a light on
a little bit threatening in a way. I don't know. Yeah.
I love that. Like, we're responsible for the energy we bring to the place at all times.
And really, yes. And we're not responsible for theirs. Boom, boom.
I was just coming with a smile. That's all I brought, And so I learned from my daughter recently, just you don't know what's going to happen, just go in with a smile. And so I just go with a smile. That's it. Meet friends and have a nice time.
Yeah.
I thank you for bringing up "let them," because that is a great way to get in and get out, and that whole theory. And so it's a phenomenon that's going on right now. If anyone hasn't read the book or just listened to podcasts, but I've been using that with my friends who come to me, and I'm just like, "Let them," and they're like, "What does that mean?" I'm not going to let them, and I'm like, "Let them, let them be who they are. It's not your business."
It's so freeing. I mean, this is theory on freeing yourself. It is so freeing to let them be them, let them do that. Like, my ex, like let him.
It might be our new book. It's our next book.
Yeah, I think it's great. And also it's like, if you think about, we're all one in terms of we're all human. Okay. So we all wake up, we do the same type of functions. And when you let them be themselves and you let you be you, the control thing goes away silently, but you just have to say it. Let them, let them. So when I'm freaking out and I'm controlling, I throw on a podcast. I'm like, and even my 23-year-old daughter, she's just like, oh my God, Mom, I totally have heard about that. 23. I wish I learned this when I was 23. So
I like the efficiency of it. Yeah, I love the efficiency of it. I'm an efficient, I did in healthcare, I did the lean thinking. I'm like, I love efficiency. And to me, I love getting in and getting out and moving on. So it's like, it's a new technique.
That's having tattoos, like I'm not going
to the little Wonder Woman things. Yeah.
I like it.
That's good.
I know.
Like, okay, I mean, clean slate here.
She has another one. She says, if they wanted to, they would, or something like that. Like if they wanted to, they would. Like about, like men and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. If the people around you, if they wanted to be kind to you, they would. So just walk by the unkind, just keep moving towards because your people are out there.
Yeah.
And you want to be what you want to attract. So
go towards the light, like not the dark. Unfortunately there's light and dark in the world. So Star Wars, go towards the light. Don't go towards Darth Vader.
Don't go to the dark.
To the dark side.
Right.
Say
Right.
no to Darth.
Say no to Darth. Oh my goodness, ladies. It's always such a great way to start a Sunday and to start a week by just like having these conversations about, yeah, noticing and witnessing. And I think that the one thing that I'm picking up from the book this time, because I had that big overarching question, well, how do you do this? And it's the answer is like just witness yourself. Witness yourself, step outside of yourself, be, Kelly at the in
Yeah,
between
be Kelly,
cars, be
exactly.
seeing
Yeah.
that person coming at you and just witness.
Mhm.
Step outside, take a deep breath. And then it's like, how do I want to, and I really think, and then later you can be like, ooh, there was a thorn that was triggered today. And either I did respond, I did react, and that's okay. I just want to also remind us we're human. We're doing the best we can. We are actually doing a better than the best, like doing this spending the time reading the book and then actively being present to discuss it and apply it. Like we're doing such a good job at like learning to address our wounds and noticing where they're triggered and sometimes we don't do it perfectly, and that perfectly imperfect state is also such a powerful awareness. Like I keep going back to my tech freak out of a couple weeks ago, and it was just like, whoa, I had no idea I had this wound. And there's something, and I'm still piecing it apart a little bit, but it's just like, ooh, I needed to see how ugly I got, in a moment to be like, that's not who I'm desiring to be anymore.
Mhm.
Like that doesn't serve anybody.
Well, especially when it doesn't, you just trying to control something, you have no way to change it. Yeah. I
It's,
had that with my son-in-law around Christmas time, and,
oh,
you know, and it was a very, very difficult moment. I won't even get into it, but I did react and try to cover myself, and instead the kids saw it oppositely, and
mm,
they thought I was trying to control things and change things. I said, no, I just wanted you to say this is where I'm coming from, but it didn't happen that way. So
right.
now I've learned to let
Yeah,
go, let him do
right.
his own thing, and just
Right.
move
And
on.
we can
Yeah,
pull on that. You could
yeah,
pull on that as a
yeah.
reference point. Like this was the approach I took at that time.
And it was,
And
yeah, it should not have
that's,
taken any approach. Yeah,
yeah,
I can't control
yeah,
him. I can't react to him. Yeah, I wasn't taking it, shouldn't take it personally, but yeah,
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I agree. I'm always trying to understand and explain, and I want everyone to know exactly where I'm
that I
coming
was
from,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
but they don't care.
That's
So,
And the
exactly what
thing is,
happened.
Don't.
there is a defensiveness in that. And that's part
yeah,
like
yeah.
defending, like when you're
Mhm.
really needing to explain so somebody else gets it, like it's again, like let them think whatever that is. What
Right.
defensiveness, and this is something that I have definitely
Mhm.
been
Because it's from their perspective. They're not going to see your perspective
I
ever.
don't need
No,
to explain it. Like if they're curious and they want to ask me questions about where I'm coming from or where you're coming from, that's one thing. But
don't
just to try
explain. Yeah.
to like be like, but don't you understand? Don't you see? Don't like
That's how I
no,
was. Yeah.
yeah, they don't.
No,
And
it's
that and
true. I asked my boys, I'll give them advice, and they said,
defending
Mom, we
authority.
didn't ask you for your advice.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
ask you. And I'm like, why wouldn't you ask someone like me for your advice?
I know.
My son bought a home without calling me. What?
Do you
What?
know I'm a king of spades? I love
So
asking.
I'm like, oh, so yeah, it does come up where, it's, yeah. So that's about me. That's nothing. I
Yes.
am proud of that boy. It's
Mm,
not about me, but yeah, I do still give advice without being asked, and that's a sensitivity for me right now. I'm liking that I know that about myself. I'm like, wait, did she? No, she did not, because that was my whole career for 40 years, is telling people exactly how the pre and post op thing's going to be, and this is professional advice that, to educate people. And so I have to remind myself that I don't have that authority. I'm not working a job, you know.
Yeah.
right.
It may
And
not
so
always be right because it's somebody else's interpretation. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
And so I'm still
I
trying
thought I
to,
was right. But,
God, I've been retired like 8 years. I should, I'm trying to realize that.
yeah.
Takes time. Takes time. Well, this has been a truly lovely conversation to have with everybody this Sunday morning. We will journey forward into part 3 with chapters 10 and 11 next week. And so this week, yeah, just continue to work as being a witness. When do you notice like, oh, that's a little sensitive. Oh, that hurts. Oh, my vibe is dropping. What is this? And sometimes it's not the moment to unpack it. It's just to notice, witness, and you can come back to it and unpack it later, or not. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure that part out. I was like, wait, I don't have to process.
I
We'll see
like that
how that goes.
unpack. Thank you all for your insights. I started off an hour ago not knowing, having a clue for chapters 8 and 9. So, and now I need to go back through and reread them and see what I missed. Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. Excellent. Well, thank you for being here and sharing your light and your stories and your beautiful energy. And let's go forth and give ourselves the grace and love that we deserve, and then let that ripple out.
Thank you again, Andrea.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yes, thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Thanks,
Everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Give
Bye.
Jasper a squeeze for me, Mama. All right. All right. Love you all. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hysterical.